All righty. I think we're up and running everywhere, huh? Hey, how are you?
Hi,
Hi.
guys.
So, welcome back to Boy Meets Squirrel, or
He's
the two
boy,
bald
I'm
guys
squirrel.
and the beautiful girl in the middle. Well, she's not in the middle right now. So, how's Lindsay?
I got back from my long-awaited honeymoon. My Mr. Squirrely took me
Oh,
to
it took
vacation.
you, what, 17 years?
Yeah, 17 years. To be fair, when we first got married, we were dirt poor, so of course we weren't gonna go into debt on a honeymoon. We said we'll take a honeymoon when we can finally afford it, and we could.
So, there'll be a little Lindsay in about 9 more months.
That would be a miracle. My plumbing doesn't work, and neither does his.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Hey, you doubled down on that, right?
Yep.
There'll be no immaculate conceptions. So, all right. Well, we're going to be getting into a tough topic today. I'm putting the over under on TikTok of getting banned at 7 minutes. We'll see what happens because they definitely do not like the topic of the day. But who cares, right? I was telling you, Lindsay and Curtis off air, I've been battling TikTok since Friday. They demonetized me on Men Need to Be Heard 2 TOO. And they did a new one I've never seen before, which is they declared I was a business account and you're not allowed to make the $29 that I make every month on that, because that's about what I average, because I figured it out. And so I've been battling with them. It's just been hilarious. But the other side of it, I don't know if you heard, Linz, they got extended another 90 days.
I'm shocked.
I am pissed, actually. Trump extended them. So they were supposed to be done Friday. And he extended them for another 90 days. They're never getting banned. You know, I wonder how much money's going in his pockets. Enough goes into senators and congressmen, but, you know. Anyway. All right.
We have a serious topic today that Dan is right is probably going to get us banned in about 3.6 seconds, and that is, drum roll please.
Hold on, wait a minute. Wait. I found something in TikTok. Hold on. Did you hear that?
Yes.
They have the soundboard. I finally found it. Go ahead.
False allegations and how they affect men. Because apparently, according to women I've talked to online, they don't. Oh, he's been cleared. It's fine.
I love that face when you made it, you know. So, yeah, I mean, it's one that I've covered many times on my podcast. I've done God knows how many videos on it. I've got another one coming out Saturday where I'm diving into the Trevor Bauer case, which is like the big one right now. Although, did you see how quickly it disappeared off the media?
I haven't been plugged in for days, so I'm way behind.
No, this was like a month ago. So it bubbled up. So what happened was she made a false allegation against him. He got banned from Major League Baseball. It was all a lie. It was a setup. They actually have her texts and videos and stuff showing she was setting him up. But he's still not back in baseball. So, you know, anybody who knows anything about sports knows that starting pitching, every team needs a new starting pitcher. And he was a Cy Young Award winner a few years back. Now, is he at that level now? Probably not. But he still was a pretty good pitcher. Not the greatest guy, I'll grant that, but a good pitcher. Nobody will touch him. Nobody will touch him. He has lost. He had $100 million. He had a $50 million contract. He would have gotten another one. So he's lost at least $100 million, probably more, like closer to $2 million. And so, long story short, he's completely absolved of anything, sued her, and got awarded $300,000 in compensation.
That's it?
That's it. So he lost at least $100 million, probably closer to $2 million. He's going to get back $300,000. Tell me again how false allegations don't affect men.
Tell me how they go away once you've been cleared, because that's the line I always hear women say. It's, oh, he was cleared. I'm like, but that doesn't mean that everything goes. It's not an undo button, because there's always going to be people out there like, well, if she wouldn't have accused him if nothing happened. And what baffles me, okay, this is the thing that bothers me the most, is women know that other women lie, because in women-only spaces, when it's just women around, everyone has known a woman who has lied about it. In fact, I've known more women who have lied about these sort of things than I know women who have actually been assaulted or anything like that. And yet, when someone outside the group, outside the estrogen club, says, "Oh, women lie,"
I like that.
all of the women go, "No, we don't. You were just talking about it 2 seconds ago about how we all know someone who has perpetually lied. And now the minute someone outside the closed club acknowledges that, we turn around and say, 'Oh, no, we don't.'"
What's interesting, to your point, your exact point, is I went on Reddit a lot, but I wanted to see, that's Quora, Reddit, those type of things. You can usually see a lot of stuff on there, most of it not good, right? But I went on there to see what they were saying about it right after she got nailed for the 300,000, and they're excusing everything she did, most of them, like post after post on Reddit, excusing what she did, saying it's no big deal, all of this stuff. And well, he must have done something, because no woman would ever make an allegation like that if it wasn't true. And now, mind you, they have her texts. I mean, mind-boggling, doesn't even begin to cover it. I mean, I'm trying to remember the exact quote. Give me a second here in my brain. There was a quote she made that they found. What was it? Oh, prior to her, because she was in bed with him. I mean, he made the mistake of sleeping with her, but it was something like, and I may be a little bit off, but it was like, "Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers," or something like that, prior to her going there. So there's no question this was a setup, and it was all made up. They are beyond innocent proof. And yet you go on to places like Quora, Reddit, the internet in general, even the mainstream medias. He was allegedly, it was claimed. They will not outright say, most of them, not all of them, they will not outright say that she was at fault here. They always give her the out. Personally, I think she should be in jail for 20 years.
I have been saying for years that I consider any false allegation should carry the same conviction as a conviction for whatever they accuse the person of. So if they accuse someone of, rape, and the maximum sentence of that is
that word. You're not supposed to use that
I
word.
said with the G.
I didn't hear the G. Sorry.
I was very careful.
I'm sorry.
If the maximum sentence is, say, 10 years or 7 years or something, that's how long she should go to jail for making that accusation. I've been saying that for years. And if the problem is that women know they can get away with it, because there's almost no repercussions on the woman. There's always a slap on the wrist. If more women started going to prison for making false allegations of a certain nature, because you can actually go to prison for making a false allegation of murder. If you accuse someone and they didn't do it, you can go to prison for that. So I don't understand why we don't carry the same weight.
Well, here. I mean, part of the problem is the laws, right? So not every jurisdiction is the same, but the majority of them, based on my research, is that at most it's a misdemeanor filing a false police report. At most. And it's a fine. And half the time they don't even, well, more than half the time they don't even do that, because they don't want to be accused of, making it tough for women to make out, reports. So they refuse to do that.
And see, that's the thing, that the argument that is always made, and it has always baffled me, because it's the boy who cried wolf. The women who lie about it are taking resources away from actual victims, because the police have to investigate every accusation as though it is a credible one. And then, because they know women lie, and everyone knows women lie, everyone knows it, then the women actually do come forward. They get the skeptical, "Are you sure?" Because women lie. That the excuse for why they don't punish them does the exact opposite of what they claim it does. More real victims would come forward if they could be assured that it's actually real, because the police aren't so busy chasing a wild goose chase. They can actually put the effort. Hold on.
Well, while she's waiting, I want to say thanks to Spider and Son and Mr. Rosani for your awesomes. I hadn't seen that one before. So everybody's loving what you're saying, Lindsay. They're giving you lots of hearts and awesomes. And Chat Room with Mex gave us a hat and mustache. So
Yeehaw!
I think I was on with Mex. Oh, you gave another. Oh, no, she's CZ Shiro sent 2 of them.
Yeehaw! Yeehaw.
Okay, good one. I think I was on with Mex about 18 months or so ago, something in that, on his podcast. It was great stuff. I had a lot of fun with that one. I think I was on twice. I don't remember. That all starts blending together. But to your point, and I brought this up in the video that's coming out, and I've brought it up many times because, and I know you have as well, I've talked to investigators that handle these cases, multiple ones, men and women, female investigators, male investigators. Amount of resources that it takes, because they don't have enough resources to begin with, and they get more complaints than you'd ever imagine. The amount of resources they have to put towards these false cases absolutely is affecting the true victims, and they're not getting justice. And then the other side of it too, that is then they're not believed, the real victims, right? Because there's so many false ones. And, when you talk to the police officers, it's detectives usually, whoever's doing the investigation, I've said to them, well, why can't you do anything about it? Because you know what they'll also tell you is they kind of know pretty quick if she's lying. They've gotten pretty good at it, right? But they still have to go through with a full investigation. There's no option on it. So their hands are tied. And that they have to spend. I mean, you think about the Bauer case. Now, admittedly, this is obviously a huge case in the news, but it's no different than any other case as far as how the investigation was go, other than it was publicized. You think about how much money the police department, the investigation units, the DA's office, all of them had to put towards this, and how much time and all of those resources could have been put towards helping real victims. And yet, here we stand, Well,
and the thing is I have always maintained that the only people who make light of false allegations are women whose credibility has never been questioned because of false allegations. I have been told numerous times that what happened to me when I'm sharing my story or something, men will almost always universally believe me. But because women know women lie, guess what? I've had women tell me that didn't happen. Straight to my face, that didn't happen. Because they know women lie. So the skepticism amongst other women, even me, I hear a woman about a news story, and I'm always immediately skeptical because, again, I've met more women who have lied about it than I have ever met women who have actually experienced it. And what does that say? What does that tell us as a society? That I hear about a horrific story on the news, especially if any man with any amount of money or power is involved, and my first instinct is she's lying.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening, right? And so then when, an actual victim like yourself sits there, you've gone through this horrific experience, and you see, and they're lying, and your perception is, if I say anything, they're going to think I'm lying. You're going to hold back, right? You're going to be far less likely to report. Or, you do report it and you have to worry that they're going to think you're lying. And maybe, obviously it's a misdemeanor, but maybe they charge you. It's kind of like what men go through too, right? How does that help women? Like you've talked about it, I've covered it too, as it blows my mind how they cannot, those that say they don't happen or whatever, how they don't realize how much damage they're doing to women who are true victims. And there are true victims out there. You will never hear Lindsay or I say there are not true victims. And the only good number is 0, right? If there's 1, that's too many. But you see this, and it's just celebrity cases. You got in the last couple of years, Trevor Bauer, Kevin Spacey was a little different version of it. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, Kevin Spacey's probably a slime ball, right? But he didn't deserve what happened to him. One that I'm still keeping an eye on is Russell Brand. So September, it will be 2 years since the accusations came out. Have you heard anything?
No.
You would think by now that investigation's been done, and you haven't heard a word on it. So I'm going to guarantee you they investigated and found out it was a lie. But instead of coming out and saying it was a lie or any of that, nothing, which means no accountability for the people that were doing it. Now, it was a media thing that did it, but shouldn't they be held accountable also? And if he is guilty, I say slam him. But I've been keeping an eye on this for 2 years now, almost 2 years. And he doesn't talk about it because obviously he can't. Right? That's the side of it. When you're on the receiving end of a false allegation, you're screwed. Anything you say, they're going to twist and manipulate against you. Your reputation's destroyed. You look at what happened to all these guys. And if they try and defend themselves, they get blasted for defending themselves.
Well, I mean, I look at the biggest one that I've seen where they twist it is with Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing, where he's visibly upset, and they're saying, well, look, he's so upset because he's angry that he's being accused. I'm like, he's been accused of a horrible crime. I would be upset too. I'd be more worried if he wasn't upset.
And
because
I said that at the time.
If you get accused of something horrible, of course you're going to be upset because you didn't do it. You know who's not upset? Guilty people.
Or they'll show a little bit of upset, but you can kind of tell. I mean, I'm really good at reading people.
It's a performative upset, but
yeah.
the look of like utter disgust on his face as he's defending himself because he was accused of this horrible thing. That's something you can't fake. You can fake outrage. You can't really fake disgust, not well. And I always come back to the timing. Like, if she was really that concerned about him being in power, she would have done it long before now. And she didn't tell the FBI. She reported it to a politician who proceeded to sit on it for 6 months before pulling it out when it was opportunistic to do so. And I also watched her testimony, and I used to think that she had something horrible happen to her, and the media just used her as a like they used her trauma and just kind of redirected it. Now I know she's completely full of shit. And then again, we're back to these high profile cases of women lying for gain, for their 5 minutes of fame,
or for political gain.
Always make it incredibly difficult for real victims to come forward because everyone knows they're lying. So it would come up to, I mean, I've heard of women, I've heard in support groups where doctors told them after the event, well, you weren't seriously hurt. It wasn't like a violent assault. So if you go forward with this, they're probably not going to believe you. These are doctors advising women in an emergency room after they've been attacked, not to report it because they're not going to be believed. And usually it's a female doctor talking to a female victim because they've just performed either a scrape to make sure that you can't get pregnant or something like that. And so the thing that bothers me most is the women who are screaming about how false allegations aren't real are the doctors and the whatnot said. We know within the female community, the estrogen club, that this is a problem, and yet we refuse to fix the problem. And what we end up doing is victimizing real victims again.
And times 10, really. I mean, everybody knows my story. I was a victim as a kid. I've been told my entire life I enjoyed it. To the point I'm just like, okay, whatever. Every time they say it, they still say it to me. And it is different for a guy or a boy than it is for a woman. I'm not trying to equate them in any way, but when you that it breaks my heart hearing like the doctor thing, right? Because they have, how do I put this? They have some of the evidence right in front of them, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
In theory. And if they know that she has in fact suffered this trauma, they should never be telling her not to report it. Because, the other side of the coin that people don't want to talk about, they always say, well, men don't hold other men accountable. Yeah, really? See what happens in a prison system to a guy who does that, right? Or to a kid. Prison justice is a very real thing. And I have zero sympathy for any man who does something like that, or a woman for that matter, right? I want them held accountable. I want them brought to justice. But the other side of it is, yeah, unfortunately, we have to go with what the United States was built on, which is better one guilty man go free than 100 innocent men go to prison. We're now at the 100 innocent men going to prison. And to your point about the Kavanaugh case, that's what really ramped it up. That's when Believe All Women started, right? All the hashtags and everything. And we're at the point now where it's not safe as a man to be around a woman at all. And keep in mind, guys, the people who make the most false allegations are women not women you don't know. The number one person that's likely to make a false allegation against you, if you actually think about it, is your wife or girlfriend. Because this is the other thing, and we kind of shift the conversation into what is a false allegation. When they go into family court and say, he did this or he's like that, those are false allegations.
So that's another thing that I was talking about is everyone always assumes that if you say false allegation, you're speaking of grape or SA, when that's not the case. He controls my finances. He makes me feel unsafe. He won't let me buy anything. Financial abuse, physical intimidation, emotional abuse, all of those, or he tracks my phone. He has me LoJack. The family might have, Live 360 or something. And, he tracks my movements. That reads as an accusation if you say it with the right stressor in the right way and in the right circumstance. All of those are false allegations. And most women I talk to, when I talk about false allegations, they automatically pull up the, between 5 and 10 of the cases are false. And I go, yes, but not only is that not the only kind of false allegation, but those are only the false allegations that are proven false in a court of law, which means that during a course of a trial, usually a criminal trial, they are found to be false. That's where that number comes from. Those do not count all of the allegations made that are never prosecuted. And that never even make it to trial.
That number came from the 1970s. And even that number, if you dig into where they got it from, that number is
it was one precinct. I think,
very
in New
small
York.
Sample size. It was data from like 72, 73, 74, somewhere in there, 50 plus years ago. The way they interpreted the data called into question. I've done videos on this.
The best study I've ever done, which is an older study, I will grant you, but they haven't really done any new studies, and that itself is very telling, was conducted on a Air Force base with the Department of Defense. And they found that between, I think, 25 to 70% of accusations were false. And of course, they printed their thing and they showed it to the Department of Defense. And the Department of Defense said, well, this is just under this particular circumstance. So the people who did the study goes, okay, fine. So they went and found a town in, I think, the middle of nowhere, Illinois. And they replicated the study there within the police departments within this town, not just one police department, all of them. And they found the exact same thing. But between 25 and 70% of the accusations made are proven to be false. Not no evidence to support them. Proven to be false. And guess what? That study mysteriously vanished.
Yeah, I mean, I talked earlier about having, interviewed investigators. I've talked to some many off the record because they got to be careful about what they say. Um, on average, they'll put the number between 80 and 90% of every case they get, 80 to 90% of them, they know are false allegations. Some they can't prove that it's false, but they know because they get very good at reading people, right? Um, but yet none of those will show up in the statistics because they will also tell you, well, we're told to hide those cases. Those cases the file gets put in a drawer. It doesn't go into the statistics. The only ones that go into the statistics is when the DA charges the woman and she's found guilty in court or pleads guilty, right? Those are the only ones that you'll see in the statistics. That's why this whole thing that, it's only, I'll use the 2% number because they love to throw that one out more than any. It's BS. And, the other side of it is I say to guys, here's a question. I'll throw it out to the audience. Have you ever had a woman accuse you of something that you didn't do? Anything. I'm not even talking SAR or anything like that. Called you a creep. Said, why are you approaching me? Put you down. Anything like that. Those are all false allegations. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't have someone in the comments on my videos across social media make allegations that I'm a P3DO, an artist, all that stuff. None of them show up in the statistics. But yet they are, in fact, false allegations.
Well, it happens to my husband all the time. He's not even in any video I've ever done, but everyone knows that I'm married. I have it on my profile. And because of the things I talk about, false allegations, issues with men, I get angry women in my comments all the time accusing my husband of being he beats me, and that I'm under his thumb and he controls me because they don't know me very well.
Yeah. I laugh at that because I know you guys. I just laugh every time.
And they've gone after his career. They're like, well, someone needs to call his commanding officer. I'm like, go right ahead. You'll get laughed out of their office. They take that sort of stuff seriously. They've gone after his security clearance. They've accused him of. My favorite was holding my favorite was that I supply my husband with an endless stream of underage girls, bring them into my house and hold them down like it's the freaking Handmaid's Tale. And I'm like, at this point, I'm starting to think y'all have some weird fantasies because the things you accuse people of are very, very detailed. And like, I've also heard, one moment, please.
Oh boy, get ready. Woo, she's mad. Woo. I'll just, because Country said, you'd have an easier time finding a man who hasn't faced one. And that's the truth, right? I think pretty much, I can safely say pretty much every guy out there has faced a false allegation of some sort at some point. And again, it goes back to when you hear it day after day after day, it takes away from the real ones. When some guy approaches a girl at a bar and says, hey, can I buy you a drink? And she thinks he's a creep, that's a false allegation. If she then goes on social media and makes a video calling him a creep, that's a false allegation. She takes it to the next step and reports it to the police as harassment. That's a false allegation. And these things are not happening in ones and twos. They're happening by the millions every single year. And if you think it's not happening in family court, I dare you. And I've actually said this to women who hit me with the 2% one. Let's go observe family court, because family courts are public. You can go in and observe them. Let's go sit and spend a day. Not one will take me up on it. We'll count the number of cases where an allegation's coming up. And that's the problem, is these things are so rampant. And, they've become, since the Kavanaugh really is when it exploded. Since then, it's become to the point where, and I know some have mentioned it in the comments on a couple of the different places, I'd be wearing a body cam out in public. I fully advocate for that. And if you're, I'm not a lawyer, okay, and I'm not advocating you break the law in any way, But I'm just saying, hypothetically, I'd rather face a misdemeanor charge of having a camera on than 20 years in prison for a false allegation. Just saying.
Well, technically speaking, all of the partner shaming videos of women trying to shame their partners into being that they're absolutely horrible spouses and shit husbands, and they, just are incompetent morons. All of those are false allegations because they're usually framed to make him out to be like he's a horrible spouse. Meanwhile, their side of the sink is so covered and drenched in foundation.
And we're not trying
whatnot.
to equate that to a serious,
We're not,
but they all fall into the same thing to where you hear it so many times. When there is a serious one, you're going to be less likely to believe the person. And that's the problem right there. If you've got a million guys being called a creep online every single day, and it's more than that, it starts eroding confidence in all this. I mean,
well, was the woman who accused the trucker or something in a Walmart parking lot or something of a horrific crime. She made it all up because he just looked like a creep to her. And
he happened to be Hispanic too. I'm just going to point that out.
And
I did a video on that one.
I have to ask these women. I always ask them, why is that the thing that you jump to, that you're going to accuse them of? And I've gotten a couple answers. One, it's the worst thing. They know it works.
Oh, without question.
Yeah. They know it works, and it's the one thing that you can't question a woman on. And two, a lot of them, honestly, how do I say this politely? They have such an inflated sense of themselves that the accusation itself, they don't realize what a horrific thing it is. They think it's just the guy is just overcome with, desire or lust, and he can't control himself. And the fantasy of that, and believe it or not, it's a fantasy. And I'm just looking at them going, it's a horrible crime, right? Like a true violation. Oh yeah, but he just couldn't control. I just want to smack him because they accuse him.
Put a pin in that for 1 second, because I want to get into that a little bit more, because I love what you're doing. Before we do, we're about a half hour in. Give us the likes, the hearts, all that good stuff, because we're having a good show. Show us some love. Seems really weird to say show us some love on this topic, but Hat and Mustache gets a yeehaw from Lindsay, and the reason I said that and interrupted you is Coxie Roxy sent one, so
yeehaw!
Yeah. So, and thank you for all the other stuff, Barebones, South African, Zach, Scooters, a bunch of them. All right. So let's get back to what you're talking about, because I've talked about it in videos before. Now they're bombing us with them. You got to do another one, Linz.
Yeehaw!
Sent one. We're up to 5. Our goal is 10 every show, just so y'all know. I've talked about it in other videos. The video I have coming out, I allude to it a little bit. I think I did a brief mention of it, but I wanted to get your opinion, and I already know your answer, but I think some of this is a power trip.
Oh, absolutely.
It's this is a way that I can show him. How dare he dump me? How dare he reject me?
So one of the biggest reasons why women accuse men falsely is because they have been rejected. Women love to say that men can't handle rejection. I call BS. There are some select group of men who cannot handle rejection. And there's a difference between an actual just gentle rejection and like a power trip of telling them how worthless they are. Those are two different things. Normal rejection, men handle actually pretty well. Women, on the other hand, oh my. You tell a woman that, I'm sorry, you're just not my type. Well, why not? Why aren't I type? Are you gay? No, because first of all, gay is not an insult. And second, you're just not his type.
They intended as one. That's the newest one, right? They intend that as an insult.
And
Well,
then,
wait a
no,
minute.
these are the same people that are sitting there going, I'm an ally. I'm an ally. And then a guy
They
who's
try to
not
insult you.
interested in them, they go, what are you, gay?
I
Or
mean,
does it not work? And I'm like, no, you're just not their type. I mean, is he your type? Well, of course not.
why
Are
do you
you
care?
gay?
Why do you even care then? But I mean, getting back to the thing, it's, again, I go back to family court. One of the biggest drivers for false allegations is it's a sure way to get the kids custody, child support, all that. It's called the silver bullet for a reason, right? Some people call it the magic bullet. It works, and any divorce attorney worth their salt will tell you it does. More than a few of them will use it in virtually every case they have, just so they can win. But the other thing that happens with those is even when the attorneys aren't pushing for it, because I've had attorneys who are the good ones. There are good divorce attorneys. I know. There are, okay? David Pizarro, we've had on the show, is one of them. Frank, the lawyer from Western North Carolina, fantastic one. I could list some others. When you talk to them, the amount of women that come to them pushing to file one, and when they start drilling down a little bit, they realize she's doing it for revenge, right? She feels rejected. She feels like he didn't give her the princess life, however you want to phrase it. So I'm going to get him. And what better way to get a man than take his kids away? It is the best way to destroy a man. I'll tell you that point up. You want to destroy a man, take his kids away from him. And they know that. We know it. And they'll stop at nothing to hurt him by doing that. And when you get those false allegations and you make them, you were kind of talking about this earlier. There's no coming back from it. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. Those allegations are going to stick forever. I've interviewed, I don't know how many guys on my podcast. I've covered it. I've so many times. I've literally spoken to thousands and thousands of men who face false allegations to a man. And by the way, there's a few women. You want to talk about a bad one, Lindsay? Women facing false allegations from women. Oh man. Yeah. But anyway, to every one of them, they say the same things. I never thought she would do that to me. I never thought it would happen like it has. I thought justice was, going to prevail. All this. We live in denial. Wake up. Wake up.
Well, I've had to have numerous conversations with the men in my lives. I've told my husband numerous times, I don't want you to go to out to eat with any female colleagues. And it's not because I don't trust him. It's because I don't trust her.
No, exactly. Yeah. And many wives will say that. My wife would tell you that.
I had to tell my son, he's getting ready to go into middle school, don't go anywhere alone with any girls. Because all it takes is one little girl to be vindictive one day, and women are vindictive. It's our worst trait. And I had to explain why to my 11-year-old and he's like, well, mommy, you're a girl. And I go, yes, I am. And which is how I know that this is what happens. Just don't go anywhere alone with any of your female classmates. And he said, okay. His younger brother who's listening is going, well, why? And I'm like, I don't want to really necessarily explain it to my 8-year-old.
It's a tough conversation.
At any age, it's a tough conversation. I've told my sister-in-law had to tell both of my nephews to be careful. My eldest nephew had a friend of his who wanted to go break up with his girlfriend. He brought backup. He brought witnesses to go break up with his girlfriend because he didn't know if she was going to accuse him or something. And it may not even come from the girlfriend. Sometimes it comes from her friends. They're thinking they're helping.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good one.
I actually had someone in high school. Someone asked me if I wanted to break up with my boyfriend, who, if anyone has known me for any amount of time, knows is my husband. And I said, because I was annoyed with him one day, and I'm like, no, I don't want to break with him. It's like, well, do you want me to accuse him of something? My eyes crossed. I was like, excuse me, what? No, I don't want you to accuse him of something.
So we have someone who wants to know who hurt me.
Oh.
Again, that's a false allegation. You're assuming something and alleging that I've been hurt. False allegation. Sorry, it is, right? So that's why we talk about these things, because we have to make men aware. And like you said, your sons, your nephews, any man, you are not safe anymore. If I were in the corporate world right now, I would request to sit down with HR and I would hand them a letter in writing. I do not want to be alone in a room with any female without another person present, because all she's got to do is say you said something and you lose your job, your
They're
career.
talking about me. I just got here and I heard her say she doesn't trust women. I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
So you made a false allegation to justify it. Got it. We just said how women will make them against other women. You gotta love it. Anyway, let's just ignore her. But here we go. She's on the attack now. You know what? There's only one solution, because she's going to go report it, and we all know it. Bye-bye. She's done. I would, like, seriously go to HR, and I would put it in writing. And I don't care if you lose your job over it. You really want to be working there?
I would rather lose my job, or I would rather have my husband lose my job than face 20, 30 years in prison.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because I worked in the corporate world. I was fairly high up in a couple of companies. I worked with HR all the time, investigating false allegations. I will tell you right now, 90% of the ones in corporate were more than that. 95 were false. We knew it. Most HR departments will sit down with you. They may or may not do something, but at least you've put them on record, right? I can't speak to the legality of it, but if you got fired for doing something like that, there might be a case there. I don't know. But the other side of it is, if they say, no, we're not going to abide by that, I need it in writing, because now you've got backup, right? I would even go further. I would tell HR, if I'm going to be in the office, I am going to be wearing a body cam. Why? Because they're going to be horrified. They're going to be horrified, because it's her word against mine. And you and I both know it's believe all women. I need to protect myself. If every man started doing that, it would be overwhelming. What are companies going to do?
Well, so one of the things that I always hear about with stuff like this is, I always hear I wouldn't feel safe in a room full of men, or I wouldn't get in an elevator full of men. And I would. In fact, I would rather be in an elevator or a room with only men, and I'm like one of the only women, than be with other women.
I'll go further. I would rather be in an elevator with, is it MS-13, that awful gang?
Yes.
I would rather be in an elevator with a bunch of them than a group of women. Seriously, I'm not joking. I mean, I am, but I'm not, right? No way. No way. Because all you need is one.
And so an example, when we were in, my husband and I were on vacation this past, over the weekend, and we would get in an elevator and there would be a whole bunch of,
look at Duck's comment. Yes, I'd rather be in an elevator full of bears.
I choose the bear.
I would always choose the bears.
We would get in an elevator, and then a whole bunch of really intoxicated people would get in, all the girls, and I would step in front of my husband. So they would have to go through me first before they got to him, for exactly that reason.
Yeah, because even if he just accidentally brushed one of them,
that's enough. That's enough.
He could have his back to her and just step back and bump into her by accident. That's all it takes. That's felony assault, if she claims it is. And that's the problem.
One of my nephews had a girl sit in his lap. He didn't invite it. I think he was in middle school. She came up and she sat on him. He pushed her off and swung his legs back so that it would be underneath his desk. Guess who was in the office 2 days later? Oh, my sister-in-law was pissed. And that happened to, so we're talking about men getting falsely accused. Let's talk about how vindictive little girls are seeing, because they're watching grown women make false allegations and then they turn around and do it to kids, to little boys in middle school and elementary school, or teachers. Did you know, for example, everyone talks about how, oh, the school, the dress code for girls at school is about controlling women's bodies. Actually, no, it's about protecting male teachers and any male on campus. Because if he so much as looks in a direction, like the male janitors are not allowed in a classroom with girls. The door has to be open and they have to look down. Because if they make eye contact for any amount of time, that's all it takes.
And when you say any amount of time, Lindsay, you're talking literally a tenth of a second.
Yes, a tenth of a second. You know, you've seen the gym videos, right? Where the girl,
where they film for 9 hours.
For 9 hours, and a guy just happens to look in their general direction
as he's walking by.
And that's all it takes. That's all it takes here, too. So I always hear, oh, well, girls' bodies are being policed because men can't keep their controls for stuff. No, girls' bodies are being policed because women can't keep their vindictive little bitchiness to themselves, and they've ruined it for everybody else. The bitchery is real. And
says that.
And the young girls are watching, they've learned these behaviors from older women. They've seen their aunts, their older sisters, their mothers, their grandmothers. They've seen generations of women do this, and they know it works. I think the youngest person to ever be accused was a 5-year-old.
Oh, I'm familiar with that. He's on the registry. 5 years old.
5.
He
has no idea what he did. Most kids don't.
I mean, he's probably closer to 10 now.
Well, yeah, it was years ago.
But 5 years old.
But where did she learn how to do that?
Oh, obviously.
Obviously, she watched, because kids emulate what they see.
Or she was taught to do that. There are actually mothers out there that will teach their daughters. There are classes.
There are classes out there to teach them.
There are Facebook groups out there.
And they're like, well, we're defending ourselves. Actually, no, you're not. You're not defending yourselves. What you're doing is you're making it much more difficult for women who have actually been assaulted to be believed. You're hurting them more than you're hurting. Well, I would say you're hurting men and women equally.
Right.
Women aren't being believed, and men are being, tarred and feathered in the court of public opinion.
It's, and again, it's on steroids now. I mean, you talk about the gym videos. Guys are, I am a former gym owner. I talk to gym owners too. I'm still in the owners groups across several of them, mastermind groups, everything. Guys are leaving gyms in droves. And gyms are going to go bankrupt, right? People think gyms make a ton of money. You don't. Your margins are on par with a restaurant or a grocery store. I mean, you're lucky if you get 5-10%. So when guys are bailing, and they are bailing, they're going to home gyms for the most part. It's, you're going to bankrupt that industry. And you might say, well, who cares? Okay. Well, male teachers are leaving the school systems in droves. We're down to, it used to be, it was about 40-ish%, 30 to 40%. Last numbers I saw was around 21, 22, and it's dropping every year. And, guy I used to do a radio show with he was a teacher for 40 whatever years. He was a principal and all that. He actually talked about it on air one time when we were talking about this. He's like, we couldn't keep him. It's at the point now where they are so frequently threatened that if they give a girl a bad grade, the girl will say to them, I'm going to report you. And she'll get her friends to do it too. That's the other thing, like you were talking about, right? So next thing you know, he's got 4 allegations against him, and they're all believed instantly. Guilty until proven innocent. No man who is sane would work in a school district anymore. You got to be nuts to do that. Unless it's an all-boys school, right? You'd have to be insane to be a man working in education right now, K-12 specifically. You're just begging for it. Because it happened. I talk to these teachers. I know you do too, Lindsay. I talk to them and they say it. It happens all the time.
Well, I watched it happen. One of my only videos that ever went viral was I was talking about 3 instances where the teen girls were the predators because they were going after adult men who did not reciprocate, by the way. That was the thing that everyone missed. Like, well, if they I didn't say they reciprocated. If any adult man who reciprocates a teen girl's advances deserves to be, drawn and quartered. But in instances where we had a girl in one of my classes who she would make the worst, she would say things that make a sailor blush. And the very first day of class, he picked up his phone, he called the office to report it. And they told him to ignore her. Now, this was 20 years ago.
Yeah, a whole different thing now.
But it got to the point where at the end of the year, we had an administrator, a female administrator, standing in the back of the classroom every class. He had his door open. He had a webcam on, not to record the class, but to record the audio. And lo and behold, at the end of the year, guess what she accused him of because she failed? She plagiarized a paper. And he failed her. And he asked to have her removed. This poor teacher did everything by the book. He asked to put her in a different class, and her parents refused because their precious little angel would never do that. We were all just jealous of her.
If my daughters ever did something like that, I would find out if it, but if I even suspected they were lying. So Steve just asks, is it true more and more gyms are banning filming? It's funny. I was having this discussion a couple of weeks ago with gym owners. The answer is yes, more and more are. It's not anywhere near enough. The owners are leery of doing it because it's going to piss off the women that are doing it, and they're going to leave. They're going to lose the membership. But the insurance companies are going to be the drivers on it. Because you got to remember, when women do these and make these allegations, most of them, insurance companies will pay out because they don't want to take it to court. Because they can't win. Even if they win, they lose because the publicity will get out, right? So the insurance companies are pushing to ban it. So the gym can have camera. I had cameras in my gym, because of stuff like this. As a trainer, right, I will not train women anymore in person. I won't do it because of the risk. For years, I trained women. And I'm talking individually. But I had cameras. And every person was told before they signed up, we have cameras and the sound microphones are on. So you will be recorded. If you have a problem with it, don't sign up. And it was for that reason, to protect not just me, but everyone. And for the most part, honestly, very, very few people had a problem with it. But to answer you, Steve, yes, more and more gyms are doing it, nowhere near enough. Give it a couple more years. The insurance companies are going to be the drivers on it. They're going to make sure that there's no filming, which part of me as a trainer, because I train people online too. I have, strength and conditioning people. They have to film themselves doing certain things so that I can critique and make sure their form's right and all that. There's ways to do it where, if you're in a squat rack and the squat rack's against the wall, you can film yourself and nobody else can be seen. So I don't have a problem with that per se. The other side of it is the risk now is ridiculous. I talked about it. When I go work out now, I go in my little corner of where I go to the squat rack, which is in the corner if I can get to that one. And basically I'm, walls on 2 sides, and the third side has equipment that nobody uses. So I've got 3 sides of me blocked. But I've had young girls, I'm talking 20-year-olds, come on, and suddenly stretch right in front of me. I talked about it. It was about 1.5 years ago. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. There were 3 of us in the gym. We're talking an 8,000 square foot gym. I'm in a squat rack doing deadlifts and stuff, and she decides to stretch, no joke, 6 feet in front of me. You think I didn't know what was going on? That was a setup through and through.
That's why I don't like going to the gyms on base.
And I left.
Even on base. Eric and I went to one, this Mr. Squirrel for the uninitiated, and the whole gym she picked in front of him to just like stick her butt out. And he turned his head to the side because she was not an attractive woman. And I had to snap at her until she listened to me, took her headphones out. I go, he's married. Go over there. And she gave me this. She's like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't see him there. My husband is not a small man, and the gym was empty. Yes, you did go. I told her needs to get her eyes checked.
Yeah, country just said, didn't the insurance company tell you to put the cameras in? Yes, they did. And that was 2013 that they did that. But they only wanted them in certain areas. I put them throughout. Every corner of that gym was covered.
And now the irony is, as Houston was saying, there's a lot of women who are complaining male coworkers want nothing to do with them. So here's the thing. Women always tell men that they need to police bad men better. The good men need to police the bad men. And for the most part, they do. Because if you'll notice, they're like, oh, well, all the guys have a guy friend that does this. No, they don't, because good men don't befriend bad men, and if they find out one of their friends does this, guess what? They excommunicate him. Do you know who does usually have a friend in their friend group that does this stuff? Women. Mm-hmm. It's projection.
And they support it.
But if we are expecting good men to hold bad men accountable, then women need to start holding bad women accountable. And to be fair, some of us are working on it, but it's not nearly the amount of women that need to. And then there's the other side of that, is when a woman like myself or Sarah Eaton or anyone else holds bad women accountable, all of the bad women tell us we're the problem.
It's funny. Sylvester the cat said, as an older woman, I agree. So many young women dress way too provocatively in the gym. Back in the day, you guys love when I do that. When I owned my gyms, 100 to 1 women complaining about how women dressed versus men complaining. Men just put their headphones on and want to go work out. Just leave me the F alone. I'm here to lift, right? Oh, God. There wasn't a day we didn't deal with it. What? Can you say something to her? Why don't you? I used to say that to some of them. Yeah, I can. I mean, they're not violating our dress code.
I have asked women before. I looked at one the other day. She was just walking when we were on vacation, and my face said something that my mouth hadn't, and she turned to look at me, and I realized she saw the look on my face, because my face said what my mouth didn't. And I was like, you cannot be comfortable in that. There is no way you are comfortable in that. She goes, but I look good. And I, being me, said, no, you don't.
But yeah, I mean, I used to hear from the girls that had the they TikTok pants, right? That, you remember, like 3-4 years ago, there was the TikTok pant craze, and they would come into the gym, but they feel comfortable to work out in. Honey,
no,
I've been working out for 50 freaking years. Okay, squats are not comfortable like that, where you're literally cutting your breath off. In fact, they're dangerous. I just laugh about it, but you know, it's funny though. Like, you know, like Sylvester saying, you know, they wear it at shopping centers too. They wear it everywhere, right? I mean, I was at the beach the other day, and this girl walked by, and she might as well have been naked. I'm talking 2 spaghetti fettuccine coverings on the top, and basically the same on the bottom. And I'm like, there are kids here. Now, admittedly, it was early in the morning, right? Because I was having my coffee and all that. Probably 8 in the morning, but there were kids at the beach already. And I'm like, you're wearing that here? Really? And, you know, she ain't wearing it because it's comfortable. It is what it is.
She wants to be looked at, but she only wants to be looked at by a certain group of people. Yeah. If anyone else that she does not find attractive looks at her, that's wrong.
But yeah, it's funny, because you'll like this one too. I wear sunglasses at the beach, mostly because I'm very sensitive to light. And I've had women come up to me and go, why are you looking at me? Honey, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking out at the ocean. See those dolphins swimming out there? That's what I'm looking at. I ain't looking at your okay. And she got, this was a couple of years ago. She got so mad at me. I said, there's not enough money to pay me to look at you in the world. You know, and then of course she got pissed. And I'm like, You had no idea that was a false allegation, right? And I was legitimately, I didn't even know she was there, to be honest with you, because I was looking off to my right slightly, because the Dolphins are up left, putting up her umbrella, which then flew down the beach because she didn't know how to dig it in. But anyway, these things happen all the time, and the problem is, we guys are the ones that pay the price. Because we're facing these accusations. I mean, what I faced there was a false allegation, right? And I would have no problem being with Lindsay because I trust her completely, right? Or my wife. And I have certain female friends that I know are safe. If I don't know a woman, I will not be alone with them. Training clients, I stopped training women in person. And I know my stuff. Right. I have women that will reach out to me. Can you train me? I want, my so-and-so's referred me. No, I'm sorry. I'll train you online, but not in person. Why? Because I can't take the risk. And then they get mad at me for it. I would never do that. Tell that to every father in family court who's facing one. From the woman that supposedly loved him.
Loved him enough to marry him and reproduce with him in many cases.
Yeah. All right. We're at the 5 o'clock hour, or 4 o'clock if you're where Lindsay is. Give us the heart, the love, that. Wait a minute. There's a sound thing. Hold on. The sound thing's going to be cool. Here, ready? There's the heart. Give us the heart. Help us by sharing this and all that. I know, country's been keeping an eye on it because I had the over-under at 7 minutes. We're an hour in. They haven't taken us down. Just wait. It's coming probably. And also, if you're on TikTok, and gift us a hat and mustache. Every gift we get for that gets a yeehaw from Lindsay. It's been a while. Oh, we just got one. Go.
Yeehaw!
We're up to 6. I need 4 more. Come on, people. 4 more to hit our goal of 10. You're not going to hear me do much shilling. So anyway, let's get back to the conversation. So, we talk about in the workplace and all that. And, we got another one. Go. Michael sent one.
Yeehaw!
Scooter sent one.
Yeehaw!
I need 2 more. Come on. One of the things that, being in a former business owner, and all that, one of the things that you're seeing is the mass exodus of men from the workplace. And there are a few reasons for it, but if you think false allegations aren't one of the biggest reasons why, you're a fool. Right? And I started talking about this with politicians back in the spring. You would have thought I was a purple alien from, Pluto. That's not true. That would never be the case. What makes you say that? Oh, I don't know, because I talk to men all the time. You're going to see, because you mentioned earlier, men will not engage with women in the workplace anymore. You cannot. Because you could just go up and go, gee, Lindsay, I love that green shirt you have on. You look awesome in it. Next thing you know, you're in front of HR. He was sexually harassing me. He was commenting on my appearance. He was trying to look down my shirt. It's your word against hers. Prove you didn't do it. And you got to prove the negative. She doesn't have to prove you did it. You got to prove you didn't do it. And 2 more.
Yeehaw!
1 more.
Yeehaw!
She's going to be hoarse by the time we're done. All right. Yes, I know Pluto is not a planet anymore. Jeez. I didn't say it. Oh, Brenda sent one. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeehaw!
You got to do the mouse squeak on the next one. When you look at businesses right now, and some of them are struggling to get good talent, guys are not even applying. The last numbers, I talk about 7 million men have walked away from the workforce. I think it's probably closer to 10 or 12, to be honest with you, if you look at the numbers. That's a huge number. And anybody who thinks that what's going on in the workplaces and the way things are is a fool. And they're not even thinking about it, let alone addressing it.
And I said it before and I'll say it again, until women start either women hold other women accountable for it and are taken seriously, or we start forcing women to be held accountable for it via the justice system, it's not going to change. It used to be we had this thing called shame. And if you knew someone who lied about it, you shamed the crap out of them until they felt horrible. If for no other reason than because everyone else thought they were horrible, because women have we're far more attuned to what people think about us.
Mm-hmm.
And how we're perceived by others. And if you're perceived by everyone to be a lying, gold digging whore, well, then you would become a recluse baby, a recluse.
Say that basically 3 times
fast. Because no one will let you. They'll turn you away for service. They won't, serve you because you did a very bad thing. We need to do that because nowadays, well, we all know that accountability is kryptonite to the modern female, but it's gotten to the point where it's hurting women too.
But even to that point, Lindsay, right? So you're saying, and I know you do it. I know Sarah, I don't know if she's still on. Sarah was on earlier. You guys hold women accountable, and the amount of venom and hate you take back and the amount of false allegations that are then made against you, for someone else, you can hold up to it. Sarah can hold up to it, right? A lot of women can't. And I understand that because it's as bad as it is, like the hate that I get, I laugh about it and all that. It pales in comparison to what you guys get. Not even close, right? And I think that is the coven. You like to use other terms. I use the coven. Keeping women in control, right? So how do we get past that? And because a lot of women want to speak up, and I've had several say that to me, but I can't or I won't because they know what's going to happen. Other than saying, just suck it up and do it, which you do, Sarah does. I mean, I could go a whole list. How do we get I'll use the term average woman. I know that's a poor term. How do we get them to have the courage to do it? Because until enough of them do that, it becomes the majority or enough of you that you can withstand the blowback, it's not going to change. How do we do it?
So women require men to enforce society's laws. Look at all of our military is mostly men. Our first responders, police force are men. As much as I would love to say that women could solve this problem on our own, we can't. We need men to enforce the rule, enforce the punishment on women, because women aren't going to be able to do it on our own. And until y'all grow balls, not y'all, obviously, but until the majority of the men in power realize that this is hurting everyone, they're going to have to force the compliance, because that's how society has always worked. When it comes to war, when it comes to police forces, when it comes to the military, women are allowed power because men give it to them. I can't force Dan to do anything. Physically, I can't force Dan to do anything.
You could try.
I could try. But then if I want to force him to do something, I use my mouth, I say something, and then other men come in and force Dan to do something for me. That's how it works. So until men start holding women accountable via the justice system, I would love to say women could solve the problem ourselves, but we can't.
So how? All right. I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way, in any way, but I'm playing a little bit of a devil's advocate. Any man who tries to do that is going to face false allegation of abuse, control, coercion, you name it. That's the problem, right? It's a no-win situation for everybody. You're right. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But again, as a man, no, it's on women to fix it. That's my response to you. And I have to say that because if I try and control in any way or speak up, look at the venom I get for speaking up. I get death threats. I get every day. You like little children and all that stuff. I don't care. It doesn't faze me. But if I were to go and let's say in the workplace, for example, and I knew women were doing what they're doing, and I went to and tried to do something about it to stand up to that, right? Stand up with the people in charge. I'm done because I know what's going to happen. They're going to believe the women. The women are all going to stick together and destroy me. And it's the same thing that, to my point earlier, it's the same thing they'll do to a woman, right? So, I mean, I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking. And I know people are putting things in the comments, and I agree with a lot of them. You know, it's until it gets so bad that they can't ignore it, nothing's going to change. And we're already there, by the way.
If so, ideally, what would happen is a large enough group of women would recognize that this is a problem, and then they would get a group of men to basically enforce for them the other women. So they would be basically either by vote, so they would vote men into office or into positions of power that would then enforce their will and punish the other women, because that's typically how it has gone throughout the course of history.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the ideal. We're not there yet because we don't have enough women that are willing to stand up and say enough. We are slowly gaining ground when we talk to women who have men in their lives who have suffered false allegations. I have more luck with mothers of boys, and when they're sitting there talking about, oh, false allegations are, whatever, and then I'll give an example, and I go, you have a son, right? She's like, yes. And I go, how old is he? And he's, oh, he's 15. Did you know that one of his 15-year-old girl classmates could accuse him and your son would go to jail?
Let me ask you something along those lines, because your boys are in middle school. The oldest one, middle school?
He's sixth grade this year.
Yeah.
About to.
All right. So let's use that as the hypothesis. What do you think of the possibility of, let's say, you going to the school and saying, I want to have a discussion, make it available to all the moms and dads of boys in the school about the risks of false allegations? How do you think, and I'm genuinely asking, how do you think that would be perceived? Because I am out of the school system now. It's been 15 years since I've had a kid at that level.
I think they'd laugh at me the first time, and then I'd keep coming back. Oh, Curtis is here.
Curtis is jumping in.
So
Hold on,
6 boys, right?
Hold on, Curtis. I got to fix things here. Hold on.
Almost 8. And I have run into this before.
Okay.
So they will not. Okay, so this is the interesting conundrum, or the dichotomy, we'll call it, right? Where my ex or my current wife, they won't listen to because they're female. But 6'4", 280-pound Curtis walks in, sits down in front of him, tone, tenor, everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's this interesting little dynamic, right? We call it a social dynamic for a reason. I am an intimidating guy. I have that voice. I've got a very commanding figure. I'm a very commanding presence. I have a voice that carries. I also know that if I roll my shoulders back and I look up and I'm looking you in the eye and I'm not backing down, I've already got you socially cued in. I'm using psychology to my advantage.
Yep.
It's funny because I remember a little thing. I am a big teddy bear. Let's be honest. Okay, so
I get called that all the time too.
The funny part is, when my wife was disciplining our 10-year-old in Walmart, and she swatted his butt. In Iowa, you're allowed to spank your child so long as it doesn't leave a mark lasting more than 24 hours. This woman was giving my wife a hell of a time. My kid comes and finds me, the one that was misbehaving, comes and grabs me and says, Dad, this is what's going on. I go, Do you think that woman had the nerve to say a damn thing to me?
Oh, not a word.
Not a damn word.
Not a word.
So
Been there,
now
done
we're
that.
in this conundrum where, okay, so long as a woman is behind a keyboard, she can say whatever the hell she wants to say. But when you put her in front of you, she doesn't have the balls.
Unless they have a group around them.
Not even then. Because here's the funny part. I run into this politically as a mayor of a little tiny town where everyone knows everyone and everyone's secret is known, right? We know who's screwing the next door neighbor. You know, this is the sort of stuff you deal with in small town. The reality is, even when you have those group of women show up to city council meetings and they're griping and they think they got everyone's back and blah, 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 blah. The minute you drop the truth bomb right in front of them, it's the equivalent of a mic drop or a nuke. Let's be honest.
Oh, it'll hit them right here. Well, that's what happens with my videos, right? It hits them right between the eyes, and they immediately go in defensive mode,
right,
and start looking for the cope, right? What can I? Oh, he's bald. I can ignore everything he just said because he's bald. Or no, you know what? Married. No,
Curtis the koala.
Yeah, I saw that too. But yeah, I mean, it's to your point. I agree with you. But I think the reason I brought up the schools is I think, again, I worked in K-12 from 2011 to 2013, so I am way out of date on it. But back then, they had groups where they were talking about addressing the girls about the risks. Yes. So, okay, based on that, shouldn't we also have the same for boys? Now, Absolutely. What they wanted to have was what you shouldn't do. And they do it in the colleges too, right? There's sexual harassment courses. Everybody's got mandated to go to. The one for the girls is, what is it and how do you make a complaint? The one for the boys is, you're going to do it and we know it. So there.
Make it part of the personal development course that everyone goes to. Everyone has to take. They usually, here in Iowa, they do it in the gym class. They post the video in the gym class.
Sorry, the red pen. These guys are great. Actually, it's the lights that are making me look red. I'm actually not red. Oh, maybe I am because I'm hot right now. I noticed when I turned the lights on before we came on the show, I went instantly red. But getting back to what you're saying, of course, I mean, I think that's the first step because
I would agree.
The ones that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s aren't going to change. They're not. They're there.
They're already set in their ways, and it's kind of like, okay.
And the high schoolers, for the most part, you're probably not going to get to them now. We got to go with like the kids that are Lindsay's son's age and that group, and start sitting those only candidates. Really, they're on a roll, man. Sit them down, and because I get told all the time, you need to go and run classes for boys. I would love to be honest with you. Who's going to let me do it? Right? It would be the school districts. If I went in there, the teachers' unions would go nuts, right? And I wouldn't even be putting women down. I'm like, boys, here's some realities for you, right? 20 minutes of fun can lead to 20 years of child support. But they would have a problem with that,
I think the perfect way to attack it would be the Iowa State Educators Association. That's how I would attack it. I'd go to them and I'd say, hey, you know what? What are you guys' thoughts about making this part of the curriculum? Because here's the thing. In a red state, they're going to want to be able to know how to navigate the red state. And because they tend to be a more liberal association, you have to have something that would attract the red legislators. Okay, fine. That would be one thing that they could use as a negotiation tool to be able to get something that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to have access to. Now, conversely, what would they do in the event that it's in a blue state? And how could they sell it there? Here's the thing. Well, not putting a young lady in that position in the first place would be how I would sell it in a blue state. If you explained it to a young man, hey, You know what? I can buy right into their like line of thinking. I just sell it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I don't think either side will do it because they would live in fear of the teachers' unions, the women's groups, and all that. But I think behind the scenes, they would agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Both sides would see the benefit. They'll never do it. I'd be a cold day in hell, I think, before they'll do it. But I think because you and I know Lindsay, we've all talked to legislatures off the record.
Mm-hmm.
What they say off the record versus on the record are usually two entirely different things. And I think they would, both sides, I think would look at that and go, yeah, this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't do it. Because if they do, their electability is going to go right in the toilet. Right?
You know, I think it depends on how you sell it.
It also depends on what state you're doing it in.
That's
Fair
true
point.
too.
Both of those are fair points.
The terrain is very important.
Like they would never do it in Texas ever. But
No.
if we could get some of the smaller states, if we could get Iowa, maybe Montana, Wyoming, some of the smaller, more conservative red one states to do it, then it becomes. And
you're gonna laugh. I think it would be viable to do in New York.
I do too.
I do too.
And I'm telling you that, and I'll tell you why. Because somebody mentioned it earlier. Dan for president, not a chance in hell. I'm just scrolling up on the TikTok things. I want to go back to it. Our school district has a program called Good Dads, and it's branching out nationwide. I'm familiar with that program, and there's dozens of other ones. And 20 odd years ago, I was meeting some of the things we're talking about, right? Specifically, I was saying, we need to have honest conversations with boys regarding wearing condoms, because there was a big push for that back then, right? Teen pregnancy prevention is what it was all about. And I'm like, everything you're saying, I agree with you on, right? But you're not putting it in a way the boys are going to understand. You're not putting it in a way that's going to put the fear of God into them like dad would, right? You're coming at it from how mom would.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to work with boys. Dad, that's why I used the example I said earlier. Dad, and I said this to my boys. She may be hot. You may have the best 20 minutes of your life. You want to spend the rest of your life attached to her and the next 20 years paying her? Because that's what you're looking at, son.
And that's a fair point to make. But here's the downside of red states now. Conservative Christians.
Well, they're going to fight it because they don't believe
right?
in it. Yeah.
Here's what it is.
For me.
You know what? They're going to be saying, well, that's not very Christian-like. You should be abstaining. And I'm going to tell you something. Have you ever met a 16-year-old boy who's really into this one girl? I'm telling you, golly.
Yeah, we were all there. We know. And I would have those type of guys that were legislators, ministers, and they would toe this line. And I'm like, dude,
you were never 16 once?
You were 16. Who are you kidding? All right.
Right.
Stop.
Right.
Stop. Just stop. Okay.
It's the pragmatic ones that make sense.
I mean, okay, you have your religious beliefs. I will respect them. I don't care how religious you are. The Puritans had problems. Stop already with this. Real quick, because Smartass jumped on. I haven't seen him in a while. Roar for the Tiny Diney and...
Yeah. You told me that the next one had to be a mouse.
Great. Hold on. I got to cheer because of that. Because we got that. You like that one? There we go. All right. So we only got about 5 minutes left. So a really good discussion. And we kind of went different than I thought we were going to, and I'm glad we did.
Here's a question for you.
Okay.
What can guys do to prepare for the worst?
Never be alone with a woman.
Say again?
Never be alone with a woman.
So you're talking in terms of false, how to protect yourself.
How do you protect yourself against false allegations, but also how do you protect yourself when false allegations occur?
All right. To protect yourself from them, 3 points that I say. One I talked about earlier. In the workplace, go to your HR department, be proactive.
Right.
Body cam.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them for $30. They look like pens. They'll sit in your pocket. Nobody will even know it's a body cam. If you're in a two-party state, guess what? That doesn't apply in public. Oop, Curtis dropped off. Come back, Curtis.
Right.
If you're in a two-party consent state, doesn't apply in public. Just saying. And by the way, and again, I'm not advocating you break the law, but I'd rather risk a misdemeanor charge for that than 20 years in prison. And then the third one is what Lindsay just said. Do not be alone with women anywhere. I hate having to say that. You know, I had a woman, and I'm going to be, she wants me to reply to her, and I'm going to be, she won't let me do a video on what she said, like I need her permission. She sent me this long email saying, I'm so negative and I'm teaching men to be afraid of women. Yes, I am, because they should be. But those are my three. And then if you face one, get a lawyer, period. This is not one you want to go pro se on.
Nope. So the argument of you're teaching men to be afraid of women. I've had someone say that on somebody, I think one of your videos or something. And I replied with, well, this was during Man versus Bear. I said, well, you're teaching a whole bunch of women to be terrified of all men. So it's fair, right? Equality, #equality. And they're like, but women aren't yes, they are. That's the thing. It is actually misogynistic to believe that women, by virtue of being women, cannot be just as dangerous as men. We are dangerous in different ways. Like, we can't physically beat the crap out of you, but we are still just as dangerous. I would actually argue that women nowadays are more dangerous socially than men, because yes, a man can hit you and maybe break a bone, but you'll get over that. If you get put in prison on a false allegation, what do you think is going to happen to you? They're not going to believe that you were put in there on a false allegation. So broken bone now versus, you know.
By the way, I want to address something. Tap rack. Control the optics. Yes. Always be in view of the cameras. Yes, but that's not a fail-safe, because if there's no microphones, it's only visual. And she can say you said anything. And they cannot read lips a lot of times on those cameras. Body cams. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Lindsay, but I wanted to jump on that quick.
But my argument has steadily been for a long time that women, even historically, women have more power than men do, because not only can we have the ability to make other men around us do our dirty work for us.
You're masters at it.
And women have been doing that and pulling that thing since the dawn of time. It's the oldest trick in the book.
They're excellent keyboard warriors.
They really are. And we can churn up righteousness like no one's business, because men are biologically programmed to protect the group of people that continue the species. It's a biological imperative to protect women and children.
Country, sure no TikTok problems tonight, and the squirrel hasn't lost her nut. And on that note, we do have to wrap things up. So really great discussion today. I'm actually shocked TikTok didn't take it down. I am beyond shocked, to be honest with you. We still have 2 minutes. We'll see. It's happened before. Remember, Lindsay, that one time they cut us at the last minute. But really good discussion. Lots to talk about with that. I'm going to be releasing a video Saturday. It'll be on YouTube and Rumble. It's not going to be anywhere else because it's too long for anywhere else. So if you're not following me on YouTube, you need to go and follow me there. This is a good one, and I really want you to watch it, because I really dive into that case and the effects that it has on men. I've interviewed multiple men who face false allegations, and I talk about what they went through. And I'm not saying that to shill my video. I'm saying it'll help you to answer Curtis's question. I put tips in there on how to help yourself. So, and I know Lindsay's done videos on these as well. Just protect yourself, guys. I mean, I hate to say it, but I have to say it. It's all women till it's no women. You need to live with that mindset. Just like they say they need to live with it, we do too. All right, we got to wrap things up. Curtis, how can they follow you, my friend?
Hey, Bauer82 at YouTube. Curtis Bauer, Kurtis Bower, Facebook, Instagram. Yep, I'm around.
You're around. Lindsay.
Squirrel Girl 1988 on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Just Squirrel Girl on Facebook. Although, to be honest, guys, I have not been on TikTok in a while because it just makes me angry.
I'm a little depressed that you're not putting as many videos out. I have nothing to watch in the morning now.
I'm sorry.
I was actually, I think it was Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. I was like, I need to watch a video. So I go on YouTube and I'm like, I went to your channel. Nothing I haven't watched already.
And her videos suddenly got better when she got a microphone. And then all of a sudden.
Well, they always do. So
no videos.
Go follow Curtis and Squirrely Girl, Lindsay. I am going to need to be heard across everything. Guys, awesome show today. Not sure yet what we're talking about next week. We'll probably talk about it off air. We're live every Wednesday from 4 to 5:30 Eastern, 3 to 4:30 Central, whatever it is, Mountain and Western and all. Yeah, who cares? And in India, we haven't done sometime down the road, and we're not going to do it today, but we got to find out where the people from across the world are because we used to have them from all over the world. Anyway, wrap it up.
That's all, guys. Bye.